Hi, my name is Tanya and welcome to Utility Jane. This is a quick go-to meal for us. I like to just quickly prep it, get it in the oven. I can get off and do other things and it is super easy. Now today I started with the pie. Normally I would prep the meal, get it in the oven, make the pie in between, and when the veggies and things came out, I would put the pie in. But today everyone wanted pie for afternoon tea, so that is what I started with and that is what we enjoyed. And then I moved on, cooked dinner and had biscuits later on. But anyway, let's get started with the pastry. I make variations of this pastry all the time. Self-raising flour, gluten-free. I've got oat flour, some salt, some sugar. I blend all those dry ingredients together. I have some apple cider vinegar. I just put a touch of that in. Some Greek yogurt. I use lactose-free. Just, 3 heaped dessert spoons. And some butter. That's probably nearly a 250 gram, maybe 200 grams of butter. I cube up, I soften it in the microwave because I am using my mixer. If I was making it in the food processor, I would just throw it all in there. Melt it and then, there we go, and just add it slowly as it mixes. Get that mixing. Tidy up my space a bit. Making pastry used to be something I was very unsure of doing, and I got to a point where my family loves pies, so getting past the perfection stage has been a big thing, and I just make them, and no matter how they turn out, they always are delicious, and that is all that really matters. It doesn't matter how they look, truly, or if the pastry didn't turn out as good as it has done before. It is about how it tastes, and that is it. So I've got it all mixed through. I'm going to get it out on some brown paper, just get it all together. Because that butter is warm, so use the paper to help me form into a round. Then I cut that round in half, get some more paper, and I want one side to be just a little bit bigger than the other. So I wrap up what I'm going to use for my top. I always like to get it formed into a shape that is easy then for me to roll out. It can cool off like that, and then it is easy for me just to open up the paper and start rolling it out. So this is going to be the base of my pie. I'm just going to edge it out because it is gluten-free flour, so it's not the same as working with a wheat flour. So I just roll, turning it, just keeping it in that circle so it's nice and easy. Makes life really easy if you just keep it turning. Try to keep it at the same thickness, although I'm not at all picky. Like I said earlier, it's just about the taste. Don't get hung up on whether it looks fancy or not. I mean, we have to eat. And we're not here to impress guests. Okay, so I get my dish, and obviously that paper's not big enough, so my dish base needs to be a bit bigger, so I've got to extend that out. Just rolling, trying to keep it even. If you can just work at keeping it even, it means that it's going to cook even in the pre-bake. I always par bake my bases. There we go, there's the dish. Just get a little bit of butter and grease that dish. We do not want pie sticking in there. And it is going to be an apple and plum pie, so it's going to have a fair bit of moisture in it. We do not want it sticking. And what I should have done was flip the paper and made sure that the pastry didn't stick to the paper, which is what I usually do. Now just ease that down the side. If it tears, it doesn't really matter. You can just sort of push it back together and nobody needs to know, nobody sees it, and it ends up exactly the same if it didn't tear. So we just trim off that edge, saving all those little pieces, because then I add that back to what will be the top, and then there is no waste. And you can't complain about the pastry on the top of the pie being thicker. It is just not a thing you can complain about. Now just put a few holes in the base. I do not put anything in it when I pie bake it. I just throw it in the oven like that. Now I gather up all the little leftover pieces, and I'm going to, like I said, add that back to what will be the top, and just sit that aside, and it can wait while I get the fruit ready. Now this is plums, blood plums that I stewed back during plum season. We got our hands on some beautiful blood plums, and I love to buy extra and just get them frozen and have them at off-season times. I put them into bags and flatten the bags out, and that means that when you go to defrost them, it takes no time for them to defrost and cook down. Now I'm going to add some canned apple, and that will defrost away with the apple. The plums have some honey in them as a sweetener, and the apple, I don't normally add any extra sweetening to it, but that color is so beautiful. So now I've got the top, the apple and plum mixture is ready, so I'm going to get that rolled out because the base won't be too far off. It doesn't take too long. Just slowly work that top out because that has cooled off now, and it will be lovely and thick pastry on the top, turning it as you go so it stays nice and even. You just work your way around it. Now beat an egg, put a little bit of milk in there, so I'm going to gloss the top. I've got my brush ready. There's the pie base, just nicely cooked. Get that hot mix in. Oh, it looks so delicious. I love the color of that plum and apple. Get that all in. Now gently, this is what I should have done with the base. Get the paper off both sides, and there we go. Get that top on. That's always the worry, is getting the pastry on top. Now gently work the fork around the edge, just trying to seal it a bit, but we've got cool uncooked pastry meeting hot pie dish, so it can be a little troublesome. But anyway, doesn't matter. We'll get on, put the egg and the milk mixture over the top, and then that just glosses it up nicely. Obviously you do not have to do this. And then I just sprinkle with a little bit of raw sugar across the top, and it gives it a nice crunch. And some vent holes, make sure it doesn't spill out the side, or try to alleviate it spilling out the side. And then I'm going to put it on a tray because it is very full. That will go in the oven, and out it has come, and it was delicious. Like I said, everyone wants pie for afternoon tea, so that is what we're going to have. Then we're going to get on and cook dinner, and look at that pastry has come out beautiful. It's piping hot. So now we're on to dinner. I've got some freshly dug potatoes, so we're going to have those. It's just going to be some roast broccoli and roast cauliflower, carrots and fresh new potatoes. I'm going to put the potatoes and the carrots all in one tray, and I love roasting broccoli and cauliflower. That will go in a separate tray. I'm going to make life really easy, and I'm going to cook sausages in on top of the potatoes and the carrot, and it can all just cook together in the oven. And I don't have to stand there watching it. I can get on and do other things. The biggest part of all this is just chopping things up just roughly to a similar size that is going to cook around the same amount of time. I find that cooking sausages like this, if you make nice little chunks of potato and carrot, then they'll cook in around about the same time. Even taking the sausages off the top when you know they're cooked, browning the potatoes and the carrots, and then you can put the sausages back on top just before you're ready to serve. So that is what I like to do. So I've got a big bowl of vegetables, and we always have leftovers of this, which is fantastic because it is, you either eat it the next day or you can do a couple of days of cooking and have leftovers at the end of the week. I know lots of people who do that. Cook a couple of days running and then just clean up the fridge on the last few days. We sort of alternate between the two. Now I'm just going to add some salt and some olive oil and massage that across all the carrot and the potato, and then dump them in a large roasting pan. I'm going to cut up the sausages, them all ready so that I can get them in the pan fast. These are grass-fed sausages. Now the pan has been in the oven heating, so it is a hot pan. This is what makes the process a lot faster, that the pan comes out boiling hot, and then I get the veggies in, get the sausages on top, and get it quickly back into the oven. Have everything spread out so it cooks evenly. Get that back into the oven. Then I can get on with the cauliflower and the broccoli and get that in a tray, roasting, just cutting it up into pieces of similar size. Drizzle it with olive oil, some salt, get that mixed through, and another hot pan. I just get those in there as fast as I can, get them all sitting down flat, sort of evenly layered. Put some butter in on top because butter makes everything better as far as I'm concerned. A bit more salt on top, a little bit of liquid in the bottom, which is water. I get the tray, put it on top, and then I put that in the oven, and it sort of semi-steams. While that is cooking, I make some almond milk, get that in the fridge. So when you're cooking dinner in the oven like that, it makes it easy to get on with other things. I'm seeing I've got the oven on. I'm going to make use of it. I've made pie and I'm cooking dinner. I've made almond milk, which means I dry out the almond to make almond flour, and then I will cook biscuits after. And after many years of just cooking and never remembering what I put in anything to try and cook it the second time, I have this little book and I just jot down just basically what I put in things. Each time I just whip something up that's a bit different to what I would normally cook, I jot things down and then I can adjust it. It's only in a loose form, it's never exacting, and then it depends on if I want to cook one of these recipes. It then depends on if I have all the ingredients, so it's only a very loose sort of recipe book. But anyway, it gives me a guide to go from. These are ginger nut biscuits that I absolutely love. I worked on them, made them a lot of times before figuring them out, because I used to love those ginger nut biscuits you could buy in a roll at the supermarket. And when I went gluten-free, I couldn't eat them. So I decided I'd work on a recipe, something similar to that. So this is the recipe I came up with, and I think it is a good one. I'm really, really happy with it. It's something I can make ahead, keep it in the fridge, and then I just cut off chunks and make a tray of biscuits. I don't have to make a whole, 30 biscuits. I can cut off half a log, slice it into biscuits, and then anytime if I have the oven on, I can just whip that cold dough out, slice off some biscuits, and we've got fresh biscuits. It's in the food processor, it's very fast, and then I cut this larger piece because this has got hot ingredients, so it's sort of like working with toffee. And I cut that log down the middle and roll it into 2 smaller logs that I can slice biscuits off. It's very soft and squishy for this first lot when you're trying to form it, but it firms up nicely in the fridge, and I can just keep them in a bag or a container, keep them airtight so they don't dry out. And then we've got 2 logs. I put them on a tray and put them in the fridge and cool them down. By this time, the sausages are browned on one side, so I just put some holes in it just to render out a bit of the fat. And then that is what makes the potatoes so delicious, is that bit of fat that's coming out of the sausages. I'll turn those over and then they can cook on the other side. It's in a fairly hot oven. Get those back in there. They've been steaming, just slightly roasted. Just check to see if they're cooked. And I just get the tray out and put that on there and it can sit aside. I've been out and picked some rainbow chard and I'm going to just fry up some of that to have on the side with some butter and garlic. Cook heaps of the rainbow chard because it cooks down to not much, but we absolutely love it. And it pretty much goes in everything. So we get that into a large frying pan. All the stalks. I know there's some people that don't cook the stalks. I absolutely love the stalks. All cooked up, even raw in my salads. Get some butter in, some olive oil, a little bit of water just to get it steaming a bit so I can cook it down. A little bit more. Give it a shape because now that butter, we want that mixing through. Put some garlic in, a bit of seasoned salt, a bit of pepper. Just fry that down a bit. I do like the buttery sauce that goes with it because everything else is roasted. I think just the different textures are nice. I mean, I could just sit down and eat a big plateful of fried silver beet. Now the sausages are cooked, so I'm just going to get those out and then I'm going to put the tray back in the oven for, 10-15 minutes just to brown up the tops of the vegetables because they are cooked. I just want them all browned up. The silver beet is pretty much done. Cook off a bit more of the moisture. Now, while I was standing there waiting for the rest of the veg to finish, I had this left over from the last meal I cooked, and it is in my last video, and it was a roasted cauliflower with roast vegetables in it. I cooked it in the Dutch oven, and I had a little bit left over, and I spoke about this in the last video about cooking with a budget, and this is the sort of things I do. There's probably a quarter of a cauliflower in there that's roasted. It's got beautiful, beautiful seasonings with it. And so what I'm doing is I've got an onion I put in there in the pot, chopped it up, put it in the pot. I've added some olive oil. I've put in those leftover veggies. I've got that all frying, and then I've got a bag of my chicken stock, homemade chicken stock. I've put that in there, and this is just making this a 3-course meal or soup on the side for tomorrow. So while I'm waiting, I've got soup cooking, just using up a few of my things I have in the fridge. Now that's all heated through, so I'm just going to blitz that with the blender, the stick blender, make it like a thin, creamy cauliflower soup. Then I'm going to add some Greek yogurt, put the blender back in, blend that through, and then it is so creamy and extremely delicious. Now the potatoes have browned up a bit. I'm having a bit of soup on the side before dinner. Everything is cooked, and this is in a matter of, a bit over an hour. I've got this all cooked, and that is because you're using the oven to cook and you're not having to stand there and watch it. You can get on and do other things. We have plenty of food left to have for leftovers and some soup. We've got pie, and now the oven's finished. I'm going to slice off some ginger nut biscuits. Just give that a roll now it's cooled down. Just form it into a log, and with a serrated knife I just slice them off. Look how easy that goes through, and they're just little discs. They don't rise, they spread a bit, but they don't sort of get puffy or anything, and they're just very similar to the ginger nut biscuits. Make a tray, and that's about half the log that we will have with a cup of tea, and there'll be a few left over for the next day, and by that time I have the oven on again and I can get a few more out and cook fresh biscuits. So that is how I like to save money, using the oven and my time. And there they are. I've got my cup of tea. I'm ready to go and put my feet up, have a ginger nut biscuit and a cup of tea, and I like to dunk. Thank you if you are still here. I appreciate you watching, and if you would like to subscribe, I would really appreciate that too. Thanks again, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.